All right, I know that some of you have very eagerly been awaiting this flip through. This is the finale to Letters and Numbers series, Letters and Numbers 4, the very last book in this series from Gather Round. And I'm excited to get to show you the inside today and share some of my thoughts on it. This is Rachel from 7 and All. So let's get started. Now, if you're familiar with the Letters and Numbers series, this is going to look very familiar. The whole overarching theme is things that are in the air. Now, one thing that is different is that this is the first of the Letters and Numbers units which isn't completely animal focus. So it's a different habitat, air, and then it's all basically flying things. So we have flying birds as well as flying insects, and we have, of course, our famous flying mammal, the bat. But one thing that's different is that in this, we begin to go into flying types of transportation, flying inventions. You'll see our little hot air balloon here, and yes, we do go into hot air balloons in this unit. So that's kind of fun. I think especially for someone like me who's not necessarily the biggest fan of animals completely. My son loves them, me not so much, I have to be honest. So in this very first week, it's kind of just an introduction to air, atmosphere, and then our first flying animal is the northern cardinal. Now, there is a big change with the Bible in this unit that I will mention and go into as well. And this is a big change from what they've done before in the previous units. And for me, I'm sure some people are really going to love it. For me, I don't really love the change, but we'll talk about it. So here's lesson 1. You can see it follows the very usual format you've seen in all the Letters and Numbers books. We have a short paragraph reading on some type of science, social studies-ish topic. We have a very few short comprehension questions based on this. And then we have our Bible connection down here. Now this is the big change I wanted to mention. In all the previous Letters and Numbers books, there was more of a systematic approach within the Bible itself. So it was going systematically through the Old Testament, but it was on a 3-week alternating cycle. So there's only one story being focused on for a week, and then the next story is the next week. So it was going an Old Testament story, then it was going to a Jesus gospel story that tied into that one. And then the third week was usually some attribute of God or relationship, child's relationship with God. And then it went back to Old Testament moving forward. So it felt very systematic and like kind of going more for overarching understanding of the Bible. Now this, they really changed that in this book. They moved to a type which does not focus on just one story throughout, but instead is trying to connect the Bible passage and the little Bible point to the science or history topic. And so that's a very big difference. Now, some people are going to love this difference. I know some people really love the kind of connections, seeing the connections between the Bible and everything. For me, I am not such a huge fan of the change, I will have to admit. I can be pretty opinionated on how the Bible should be taught, and I do like the more systematic approach. Because for me, and I can link my video about how we teach Bible in our homeschool. For me, when it comes to the Bible, I'm all about really, really systematically understanding the Bible and understanding the big picture. To me, I have to admit, and maybe it's also partially my sense of humor, it feels kind of gimmicky and cheesy, which don't be too offended by my words, but that's always been my response, not just in Gather Round, in any kind of devotional that does this, to having this kind of sometimes seems like a bit of a stretch tie-in between scripture and character, and then other things like birds and bats and animals and insects and flying machines. So that was something I was disappointed with the change. But of course, use your curriculum in the way that suits you. So if I'm not such a huge fan of the Bible part, maybe I'm just not going to use that part so much, and I will do a more kind of systematic Bible study on my own. The other part is, for me, I'm using this with on the younger age of a preschooler side, which he's not actually up to this book quite yet. But when we get there, he will still be younger than the average preschooler. And I did like that, just focusing on one thing for the week, because I don't think I'm going to get very good comprehension when we have a different Bible passage every day. So that's just kind of my thoughts on that. It's a change. They definitely changed it to what they wanted. And you know, everybody likes different things. So here we have our kite. It's a flying thing. Of course, we end each week with our reviews and our game. So review questions, 3 questions, and a game and a prayer. So yeah, you'll see that this is the exact same pattern you're used to seeing. We usually spend 2 days on one animal, which might be kind of the larger or more interesting animal. 1 day on a smaller or less exciting animal, which here is the mosquito. I mean, no one loves mosquitoes all that much. And then 1 day on a flying invention. And yeah, this one. I just felt Ephesians 4:14 was a little bit high for preschool. Not necessarily to me what would be the biggest priority to focus on. So I will say for me, the change doesn't really work as well as the original style did. But the first 3 books all have that original style. So if you like that, it's in the first 3 books. If you don't like it, well, then here's the change. So everybody has their own kind of style and way of doing things. So you can see, and this was cool. I like that we're bringing in a little bit of history in this, at a very basic level, all on this theme of things that fly. So you can just get a look. Of course, we have the very colorful. I think the color scheme of this one, is very rainbowish, which I like, because even though rainbow isn't necessarily one of the topics, we know there's rainbows in the sky, of course, which is fun and colorful. The colorfulness you've come to expect from Gather Round. So we have all of that. That's the teacher's guide, and then the student book is separated into 2 student books for this unit, for the number 4 unit, because there are so many pages. There are all the cutout and very interactive pages that you've come to expect from Gather Round. Now, do remember that because this is number 4, it's considered part 2 of the 3 and 4 letters and numbers. So this is the second half of the alphabet. So if you're going to jump in the middle, letters and numbers, start at number 3, which is in the jungle. Don't start at number 4 unless you really want to start with the letter N. Might be a little bit weird, but if your kid happens to know the first half of the alphabet, that could work for you. But I generally recommend, if you have an older preschooler who's ready to write, go ahead and start in at book 3, and then after the jungle, you get to go to this book. So letter N is where we start. If you've done book 3, you'll recognize this is the exact same pattern used for learning to write the letters. We have the colored writing lines. Learning to write the letters 3 times. There are still 3 worksheets every day, and its main focus is on phonics and math, but then usually 1 worksheet on a different subject, so it kind of rotates between social studies, science, Bible, art. So you can see this is kind of introducing a new shape. Pentagon is introduced here. Introducing 10 frames. I think this is the first introduction of them. Maybe they were introduced in book 3, actually, now that I'm thinking about it. But again, getting to cut them out, that's fun. And a very gentle introduction to pairs that make 10, not seeing it as addition problems just yet, but seeing 2 parts. There's already 8 stars, can you draw 2 more? There's 5 clouds, can you draw 5 more? Here's a social studies page, the kind of protective equipment that different careers need to use. And the surgical mask and gloves. There's been a lot of talk about that this year. Here we're on lesson 3. We're getting to the phonics sound of N. We are doing letters and numbers 2 at the moment. And we recently did N, and my son loved the noses on the N. He thought that was pretty funny. And here they get to actually write the letters in words. They're not necessarily expected to be able to read these words yet themselves, but they do know most of these letters, but they're seeing where does the letter sound come. It can come at the beginning or it can come at the end, which I like that, that they're not just focusing, because I think sometimes kids in the phonics learning nun, nun, nose, they just see N as just something that comes at the beginning. They see all letters just as beginning sounds. And I like that they're focusing on letters can come in different places in a word. They can make their same sound in different parts of a word. Then here we have our northern cardinal, so it's a little cutout. And like you can use this for a little art activity, color it, paint it, glue it onto a background. Then of course the mini books. So we're getting that emphasis on N at the end and N at the beginning. Definitely print the N books double-sided. Will make your life easier. Pro tip right there. Here's some little math kind of story problems. They're getting to color the pictures in different colors. And we end off the week with practice that. Blend some sounds. Circle each 9, draw a box around each 6. Ooh, that will be tricky. So, lots of fun to be had. Then we move on to O, and it's going to follow a very similar pattern. So this, you have to use the cutouts, which you can find in the appendix of the book. And there's going to be butterflies with spots on their wings, counting the spots, gluing them to the right place. Here, oh, this is fun. The cutouts from the appendix again. You get to cut out different kinds of food and sort them into, should they go in the refrigerator or should they go in the pantry? I think this really builds great critical thinking skills, and as someone who in my family, we've definitely ended up with milk in the cupboard before, I think this is a good thing for kids to learn. Here's our first number intro page, which I wanted you to see one of those. We have our counting objects again, but we're moving beyond the number friend 10 now. In this book, we get to go all the way up to 20. And we have different counting objects for each one. So 11 and eggs. And then you get to draw it. And, yep, so we're moving on to move on. So you can see the same kind of patterns going on. And maybe, is that everything? What's this one? And there, oh, that's a snack math pairs that make 10 activity. It looks like we're drawing lines to match them and probably building with 2 different snacks. 10 on that 10 frame. So that'll be a lot of fun. I think it'll be a really fun unit. I'm happy to have the chance to look through it right now and show it to you. I'm still gonna have to figure out all my binding and get this in order, but we're not starting it quite yet, so we're not there yet. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this video, and if it was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up, and you can subscribe to this channel, 7 and all, for more from our creative and adventurous homeschool family. Bye!